how you serve people and what they can glean a little bit more from you on this episode.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my jam is all about personal branding and using personal branding as the proper platform. So you can build, like in Monopoly, you have all of those houses and hotels, and then suddenly you have an empire. We help turn small businesses into brands so people can make it big. That's the quickest way I can put it. We take small businesses, turn them into brands so you can make big. So the Monopoly board itself is the visual metaphor for your personal brand. Like you're always going to be Nathan Newberry. That's never going to change.
Welcome to the show. I have Bijul Patel on our podcast today. Super pumped to have her. Before we jump in to hear her story, I want you just to remind you that we have a link down below of a training that you got to check out of how to grow your brand online. It's a really important training around marketing and sales that you need to know that's going to really help you be able to take it to the next level. Bijul, I want to dive in with our conversation here. Just wanted to start off like, what is high performance? What does that look like? How do you apply that? You're wired a little bit differently, like you and I, like most people. Like, how does this apply applicably to your life?
I think high performance is when you have set up yourself and the conditions in your environment to allow you to meet your 10.0 self. Like, setting up the scenario so that you're winning at your highest capabilities. So I think the difference is a lot of time people think high performance and they bring up like self-discipline and they bring up like the habits they do to evoke and force it in. I don't think that's true. I think you can use force when flow is not functioning. But I think if you can get into flow and create an environment, your space, your places, what books do you read? What podcasts do you listen to? Who are you connected with? You know, like you and I just became friends instantaneously. Who are you married to? Who are your friends? What's your friend circle like? Who's your peer group? Who's your mentors? The amount of people who are consuming free stuff are really missing out on the relationship that you develop through having a paid mentor who's guiding you to go places. So I really think high performance is actually flow.
I love that. And so to give context for the audience here, you're a coach, you help people build brands. You've been on the Fortune 500, stages and working with those brands. Like you now do a lot of coaching. You're a speaker. You do a lot of things. And this is amazing to have you on the podcast for the audience to really get an understanding of what you do. Give us some more clarity of like how you serve people and what they can glean a little bit more from you on this episode.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my jam is all about personal branding and using personal branding as the proper platform. So you can build, like in Monopoly, you have all of those houses and hotels, and then suddenly you have an empire. We help turn small businesses into brands so people can make big. That's the quickest way I can put it. We take small businesses, turn them into brands so you can make big. So the Monopoly board itself is the visual metaphor for your personal brand. Like you're always going to be Nathan Newberry. That's never going to change for as long as you're on this plane, right? Yeah. But then all of the different brands, we talked about you had a marketing agency before, and now you do coaching, and then you've done sales, and you've done all these cool things. You've got this amazing podcast. Then you're buying, Boardwalk, you're buying up Atlantic Avenue, and then you're putting hotels on them, and then you're starting to collect from each of those empires. That's what we do.
Where did this all begin? Like tell us the beginning stages of like how you got into this flow state, if you would, because you brought this up, of their focus intention of like helping people with this. Because there had to be some origin story or something that kind of really leaned you into this. What does that look like?
Oh yeah, it was like one of those it was like a total mistake. Like a literal mistake, wasn't supposed to happen, fought it away. So I had my business for a year at this point in time. And I started my business in January of 2019. So we just hit 6 years in business.
Wow.
And it was about a year later, it was March of 2020 and COVID had just hit. And I was doing commercial real estate, right? Like we talked about with the Fortune 500 companies. Well, imagine with COVID hitting and all of the buildings shut down, commercial real estate was about to be totally like devastated in terms of market. And my business had already started to slow down. So I must have bought some internet marketer's $47 thing, and I jumped in to this. I bought this random purchase off of Facebook at night. And so I ended up on the phone with the sales guy who was teaching me about online marketing. How do you use social media for quote unquote digital marketing so you can sell your stuff? So I thought, hey, why don't I take all my experience building out office spaces for big companies and help people to set up their home offices with COVID? It sounded like a great idea. They're going to have playrooms converted to offices. They're going to have bedrooms converted to office. They're going to need their desk and their ergonomics, their lights, their monitors. They're going to need their chair properly. They're going to need all of the monitor arms and all of those things, right? So this is one of those situations. Everyone in my life thought it was a great idea. They're like friends and family. Oh my God, that's brilliant. A way to take what you know that you've done for 13 years and boom, bring it to an offer online. People are going to love it. Literally 0 people loved it and 0 people bought it. So after investing $10,000 into a mastermind, I had $13,000 that was in my banking account. So I had $3,000 left over, and I had 2 kids that were 1 and 3 at that time. And we were a dual income household. And I was like, oh my God, I have to make it work. Nobody wants the thing that everyone said they wanted. No one's willing to pay for it. So rule number 1, guys, never just trust friends and family as it comes to market research. Market research happens when people pay you for the thing that you are offering. And that's 10 people pay you, not 1, not 3. 10 people need to pay you for the thing that you have, and then we actually have an offer that's market tested and viable, is validated by the market. So I was just scrolling Facebook one day, and I was learning about organic posting, and I saw all these people put on like, here's logo option number 1, and here's logo option number 2 from some random company called Fiverr. I'd never heard of Fiverr in my entire life. And they're like, which ones do you guys like, A or B? And I'd come on there and I'd be like, C, none. This is fugly. What is this? Like, what do you guys think this brand is? And what is Fiverr? Let's get away from this. And that's how I literally accidentally took my 13 years of interior design experience, it was award winning, and translated that into branding and doing all of the visual logos and naming and all of the beautiful fonts and colors, putting all that package together. And then just I implicitly, and I guess knew what mission, vision, values, messaging, and why was it important to a brand. So it's the coolest accidental thing ever. And I was only supposed to do it for 90 days because COVID was going to be done in 90 days, by the way.
Well, how do you balance all this as a mom and a wife? You and I are on a journey of health and transformation. You and I are coached and mentored quite a bit, way differently. And then you have your business and you have your life. You're trying to balance it all and continue to have this vision. Like, how do you go about focusing on all of this?
I don't. I don't. I think that's the first thing we have to get out of the way is like, there's no such thing. There's no balance. Like a balance is like a seesaw. So one side goes up, the other side goes down. I think the more appropriate way to look at it and frame it and give yourself a new definition is like, this is all a harmony. It's sometimes a beautiful harmony. It's oftentimes an absolute chaotic harmony, but you wouldn't have it any other way. And so sometimes I'm winning at being a mom. Sometimes I'm crushing it at being a wife. Sometimes I'm real proud of my fitness. Sometimes my business is just on and popping. And sometimes nothing is doing anything it's supposed to, but I do focus on in the moment, in the hour, like right here, I'm locked in with you. Like this is all about the podcast, us connecting and us sharing this bond that we have. This connection, the fact that you have kids, I have kids, we've been in the game for a little while. What's it like to be mentored? What does it take with the fitness program we're in to be able to do that and still show up for everyone else? It's amazing to find people like that. So the thing that I've got most, I'm writing a book actually like you are. I'm writing 2 books. One book I'm writing is called The Messy Middle, and it's for this exact reason. It's about building empires while nurturing children. And I want to speak to moms mostly, but also dads who are out there like me, who end up making their Monopoly board smaller because they're afraid that they're not going to do the parenting thing right. And I just want to have a new platform and a new discussion to say, you're allowed to dream big when you're a parent, because you're showing your kids that they can dream way bigger. But if you cut off your dreams, you're actually showing them that the minute they have kids, they have to stop dreaming and they have to start making sacrifices. And I don't think any of us really want to do that.
Well, you're talking about messy beginnings and building things. Like, I study history just because it's fascinating to kind of hear the founders of great, people that have accomplished a lot. Napoleon, Caesar, Marcus Aurelius, and even people up into the modern age. And there's some definitions of people now where there's a part of growth that requires a lot of sacrifice, or even another word of obsession with what we're trying to accomplish. Some people are world denting like Steve Jobs, but in his wake, he lost his marriage. His kids hated him. Some of the employees resented him. Like, there was elements of world denting, but then kind of looking at the whole circle of life, trying to look at how can I win on all fronts. At the very beginning, I think there's different seasons of this, and I want to get your thoughts on this. There's different seasons of like grit and grind and focus, and hours a day focused on what you're doing. And then there's balance with enjoying some aspects of family and friends and the harmony that we're talking about. How do you kind of look at that? Because you're wired in a sense of obsessed about the amazing fun things that you're doing, but they're often hard. Like, how do you go through these hard things? What's in your mind? How do you process that?
Well, one of the things I think about a lot is like, and our mentor, Dan Martell, says this, is like, many of you are willing to die for your children, but how many of you are willing to live for your children? And so I watched my parents sacrifice. They came here with $8 and a dream from India. And our life was hard, and we lived in apartments, and we were, lower middle class, which to Indians is like basically the poverty line. We might as well just go back to the country. And went to some really rough and ghetto schools, which has given me the advantage of being able to get along with anybody anywhere at this point in time. I literally can get along with anybody. And I started to think about the sacrifice they made was so that I could dream bigger. And if I were to take my children and then sacrifice what my parents did on the altar of saying that, well, I have to raise my children, I don't think I'm being a great role model to my children. I think about my daughter who's 9 years old, and I think if I hold back on the entrepreneur I'm meant to be, which is to build an empire while nurturing children and help other people build their empires, she's going to grow up with a limitation around her to say, I can only go so far, but if I build too much, if I get too obsessed, I hurt my family. So for me, a while ago, I just broke it. I just broke that you don't actually have to sacrifice. You don't have to sacrifice yourself. You don't have to sacrifice your family. If you are aligned to what you're meant to do and made to do, and you're doing it for the right people, the right clients, ICPs, ideal client profiles, and you are in alignment with your authentic and best self, you're not having to force in the things. And I think Steve Jobs, people cite Steve Jobs, they cite Elon Musk, but these are like extremists on the spectrum of people. Like Albert Einstein was also not a nice guy, by the way. But I think instead of looking at the extreme of who they are, I don't think we're anywhere near close to where that person is. I think that we use our partners, we use our family, we use our kids as an excuse to play smaller because we don't want to go and shoot for the stars and fall really short. I think it's way more has to do with ourselves. So are we willing to put ourselves out there and absolutely be publicly humiliated?
I love that. I think there's some really clarity points that you're bringing up that I think people need to know to help them really grasp, hey, there's grit, there's grind, but you got to focus on what you need to do and do that. Let me ask you some professional questions. Doing branding, what are some key points or principles that you can share that could help the audience if they're either starting their brand or if they're a service-based business or, a small mom and pop, but they're just wanting to start it and grow their company and get online?
Yeah.
What does that look like? What would you suggest?
So the easiest thing to do is what I call the 1-1-1 rule. And what that is, and this works for anybody. So we help brick and mortars. We also help clicks, which is all online businesses. So it works for bricks, it works for clicks, it works for products, it works for every type of brand. Artist brand, doesn't matter. So if you're starting out, you pick one platform that your person lives on. They probably live everywhere, but just pick which one that you believe they live on. And which one do you like to be on? So sometimes people will pick LinkedIn and then they'll start to gripe on how much they hate being on LinkedIn. Yeah. Well, don't pick a platform you don't like. Like if LinkedIn bores you to tears, take that as feedback that we're not going to get you in flow. Mm-hmm. So that's where a lot of people turn to hustle and grind when they're not in alignment with what they're doing. They're not having fun. They're not in flow. It's not easy. And the dream ended a long time ago because it's fun to start things. It's not fun to be, you said you ran a marathon. By mile 22, you really have made a decision that you're actually in the thing. Yep. And that's what social media platforms are. So pick the one platform where you can intersect where do you believe your most ideal client profile is, ideal client avatar or profile, and where do you enjoy being on. So you look at that. I love Facebook. Recently have gotten into Instagram, and those are my two platforms of choice. I'm not all over. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not also on YouTube. I think LinkedIn is so boring. I just can't be on there. So I've picked what my two platforms are, but that's after years of being on there. So one platform and then one page. You must use your personal page. A lot of people get confused and they feel very tempted to start a business page so the business has its own brand. And so that their friends and family can get updates from them on their personal page. No. You need to make one post that announces to your friends and family, this page is going to be used to talk about my new business that I'm super psyched about, or my latest business that I'm psyched about. Happy for you to come support me, but just be aware this is what a lot of the content's going to shift to. One announcement post. Because the personal pages get so much more algorithm lift and attention than business pages do. And then the final thing, super simple, just post once a day. One single post a day. So whether it's a reel or it's a written post or it's a post with a picture, it depends on platform, just once a day. That is the easiest thing. And if you do that for 30 days, the algorithm and the audience and all of it will just start to tell you back. You'll get feedback just from the habit of doing it once a day. And you will start to self-correct and start to be able to attract people who want to talk about your offer. They're going to want to buy your thing. They're going to want to hop on a call. And you're going to have the basis and the beginning of what it takes to build your personal brand.
I love that. I think so many people are scared, to put themselves out there. How do people get over that fear of saying, hey, I got to go out there and I got to go all in with doing that 30 days? Because even then,
it is scary.
It's a commitment, and it's hard to carve out time for marketing. How do you?
It is, yeah. It's all hard, but if you're newer into business, I mean, marketing is where all the seeds get planted, and sales is the one that comes in last and pulls the harvest out. Yeah. But without even being a farmer, you do know if you don't plant the seeds to the carrots, we ain't got carrots in 6 months. Like there are no carrots if the seeds never get planted. So if you like money and you want money, marketing is to become a friend. But the piece that you bring up about fear is, one, acknowledging that it's there. Like, I'm not going to minimize. Of course it's there. Yeah, you're worried. What if there's a hater? What if your friends and family think all you do is promote? What if you sound like a sleazy person online? Like, there's all these like self-limiting beliefs because it's new. But the thing I invite people to think about is, most likely when you see someone else promote their business, you're probably not thinking they're sleazy. Oh my God, all they do is talk about their business. You're probably not exuding that judgment onto others. So there's no need to give yourself this very harsh self-judgment because you're not doing that to everyone else. So that's the first thing I would say. And the second thing I'd say is like, it was scary when you learned how to ride a bike. It was scary the first day you walked into kindergarten and you went to school and you didn't know who all those. Every grade is scary when you walk. Remember, if you went to college and you went to your first day and you were standing out there and you're like in this enormous campus, there's so many. You start your first job and you walk in, it's scary. Mm-hmm. You don't know who you're going to sit next to. You don't know how new hire orientation is. Are they going to find out you're an imposter and they shouldn't have given you the bonus that you asked for in the salary? There's so many moments that you've come right up against who you were going to be next. And there's a moment that I call, it's more anticipation and excitement, but we label it fear and anxiety. But like excitement and anxiety are two sides of the same coin. So like, do we want to look at the anxiety side or do we want to flip it over and look at the excitement side? So we can tell ourselves, hey, look, I'm just excited. It's coming out as anxiety, but it's excitement for the new stage.
Is there any branding tips specifically? Like, do I need to have a color board or a color or palette of sorts, or, things that people need to know? Or is it just like, just go on all in and then starting and refining as you go? Like, what are some tips for the branding of people that...
Yeah, so that's the visual branding side when it's like the colors and fonts. My recommendation is to keep it super simple. Like, don't think that we're like, the more complicated you make it, the more likely it's going to be wrong. Mm-hmm. So I just recommend like a 2-color logo. If you get one, you don't even need that. And keep your color palette pretty minimal when it comes to Instagram. Like if you're going to use, or you're going to do a website, like try to keep it to like 3-4 colors. Like don't go crazy because people, I've audited so many brands that need to be fixed. And it's like, I'm like, man, this would have been better if it was black and white and you didn't have a logo. Like if you just had a word mark and it was just a word in a nice font, that would have helped you not look like such a newbie coming out the gate. So, but I think people who are newer to business end up fixating on the visual side of brand. It's just a flying monkey. Don't pay attention to the visual side of brand until you're at least 20K of revenue a month. Otherwise, it doesn't apply to you. And I'm a branding person, and I sell branding. I will not sell visual branding to somebody who's not past 20K a month. I literally won't. I'll be like, you don't need it. What are you running from? What are you running from in your business? So here it is. You need to work on your offers. You need to work on getting on social media with your personal brand. So developing that brand voice and content. Yes, you can do that part of branding. You can do the brand voice, the brand messaging, the social selling. That's awesome.
Yep.
But you don't need to get all caught up in the visual side. So that's just like a quick tip so that people can feel satiated, that they know what to do without getting hung up on it.
Yeah. And so for people that want to follow you more, because you do done for you, and then do you coach people like as well? Or is it a part of the offer that you have that people can connect with you further on?
Yeah, we have like 3 different tiers. So we've got the level of that's like a lot of like it is DIY with some coaching. So we've got that entry level offer. We have a mid-level offer called Brand Enthusiast. So our basic offer is called Brand Brain. Our mid-level is Brand Enthusiast. That's a consulting offer. It's done with you and done for you, where we're developing that brand voice at a more hands-on level. And then we have Brandfluencer and Webfluencer. That's like our flagship offer.
Yeah.
That's like the white glove, done for you type of offer. But we have all 3 of those so that people know that they are in sequence with what's appropriate for them. It needs to be right-sized with where they're at in business so they don't get overwhelmed and they end up getting massive results with the right level of package they need.
So if people want to follow you more, where will they find you?
I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm very active on both. It's Bijal, BIJAL.launch. Perfect. And then we also have our website, which is welaunch.design.
I'll put those links down below. You guys can connect with her further so you can pick her brain a little bit more about brand designs. And it's so true. Like when I ran my marketing agency, what she's talking about is so many people get hung up on the non-important things when it comes to your brand and building stuff. Like just go all in of saying, hey, I'm going to be consistent and build that arm and discipline, because that's going to be the best source of just all in focus that you need to do. So go out and do that. Down below is that training too that I'm going to put together, again, just to remind you that if you really want to grow your brand and really know how to market and sell and build a team, and you want to do that, check out that link down below. Bijul, super pumped to have you on there. I'm going to have all the links down below and we can connect further. Thanks again for connecting on the show. We'll see you on the next episode.